After 20 years of intervention by the US and NATO, the Taliban has captured the presidential palace in Kabul and declared the Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan. In the midst of the chaos that has enveloped the country, humanitarian crisis is ensuing following disturbing footage of thousands of people struggling to get on a plane and get out of the capital. Let's share some of the videos with you. That's the level of desperation in Afghanistan, Kabul, right now. And after 9/11, and with the intervention of the United States and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the Taliban has resurfaced again, and that country is back to square one.
Yes, and it's shameful that the Americans didn't handle this situation well at all. This is not how to pull out of a country. This pullout is more shameful than what happened in Vietnam. And I think that when the Americans knew that they were going to pull out, some of their best weapons, they should have evacuated those weapons from Afghanistan.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I saw it.
America built solid military bases
for rifles
for the Afghan army, and you left everything. Now, the Taliban has inherited some of the best weapons available. Humvees, hundreds of Humvees. You know, the army truck, the U.S. main army truck, hundreds of them they left behind. And if you build state-of-the-art barracks or army bases, so that as your own way of building capacity for the Afghan army, and you suddenly left the country, then you've not done well. They should have, before leaving, they should have compelled the Taliban come to a round table, agree to a power sharing formula that will ensure that this is not a winner takes all, because the way it is now is a winner takes all for these guys.
Invasion of the presidential palace.
They've entered the place. You guys are trying to drink tea with the golden.
Everybody.
So the manner they left. When you look at even Clinton and said, "Look, we made mistakes." The manner America left that place, it's like they've brought everything back to square one. So what is all you spent billions on billions of dollars
for 20 years,
you know, in that place. Now the Afghan army couldn't stand up to these guys. It's similar to what happened in Iraq.
What do you want the Americans to do? We have to look at it from this point of view. The outcome of what happened is not in doubt, was never in doubt. What was surprising was the speed that it took. We have to look at what happened. America has been in their place for 20 years, investing trillions of dollars. They trained the Afghan army, like he said, they equip them properly. The Afghan army have a very good air force. The Taliban don't have air force unit. They have equipment, they have more men, but they are so irresponsible, they refuse to defend their country. What happened was America realized that we cannot be in this country forever, and we cannot be propping up these people. Because we have to understand Afghanistan. Afghanistan has these tribes. They were just different tribes, and they've been in civil war for a long time. But out of those tribes, it's the Taliban that is the dominant tribe because of their affiliation to Pakistan. And over time, after 9/11, because when there was a civil war, the Taliban now took power, started this nonsense Islamic, whatever they call it, and then they allow Al-Qaeda to have a place in their country, which made them to attack America. So America came. When America came in, the idea was to attack Al-Qaeda and to punish the Taliban for providing them the opportunity to do that, and which they did. And they've been in this country for 20 years, and they realized that, look, even if we stay for another 20 years, we will still come out to the realization that the present Afghan government cannot rule. They are so corrupt, the money they give them, so the people are not ready. The soldiers did not fight for them.
love him or hate him, is one of Nigeria's most charismatic and enigmatic leaders. Former military president General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida is 80 today. IBB, as is fondly called, ruled Nigeria from August 1985 to August 1993, during which he exhibited political dexterity and deft statecraft. Having survived 2 coup attempts and remained relevant in the politics since stepping aside in 1993, IBB can be described as the cat with 9 lives. He has defied all the odds to live up to 80 years. In 2015, there was rumor of his death, and IBB reached out to journalist Hangout as a credible platform to debunk the rumor. Let's start by reliving that moment with you. We have General Ibrahim Babangida on the line. Hello, General.
Good evening.
Good evening, General. You are on to us live from Television Continental in Lagos, Nigeria.
Thank you. How are you?
Very well, General. Nice to hear from you. It's been all over Nigeria that you are no more.
Well, you are talking to me now.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah, I was sick, no doubt about it. And I'm happy, thank God, I'm taking treatment.
Okay. When will you be back to the country, General?
Very soon, hopefully this week.
Oh. Jide, you want to talk to our General?
General, I'm happy to hear from you again.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, I'm sure you have a fantastic memory. I'm sure you remember me.
James, right?
I'm the journalist that you advised to start doing a column on the military when you celebrated your 69th birthday.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
So how have you been?
Yes, we still show so much interest in the military, especially the Armored Corps, where you served your country. And it's a thing of joy that you are alive.
And you boys in the TVC are doing very well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that endorsement, General.
Yes, because I watch you every day.
You watch us every day.
That's great.
Yes.
That's good to know, sir.
That's good to know, General. So we hope you'll be back to the country anytime soon.
And we'll be visiting you as soon as you get to Nigeria.
Definitely. We have to get that information so that as you are entering the airport, we will be on it and we'll be able to talk to you, and Nigerians will know that you are alive, hale and hearty, General.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Former military head of state, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, calling us, I think from Germany.
It's a big scoop.
It's a big one. It's a big one, especially at this time. That same smile came to my face today from the archives. So many things rushing.
It's good to know that you have added weight, but I have not added weight.
Well, that was the former military head of state, and it's somebody that, look, when it comes to intelligence, it's something you have to give to that man, and it's somebody that Nigeria will remember for the way he ran, you know. And the sub point was as June 12. But for every other thing, when you go through the CV of General Babangida, when you look at the Third Mainland Bridge, state creation, infrastructure development, Abuja, and so many other things, you know that, look, these were the set of Nigerians that they laid down their life, they almost laid down their life to a cause that they loved so much, but it was blighted by that June 12 debacle.
Yes, the ghost of June 12 will continue to hang over General Babangida. But the truth is, when you look at Nigerian leaders, dead and alive, it's difficult to find anyone in terms of infrastructure development who has done as much as he has done. We are not even talking about who has done more than him, as much as he has done. Before Babangida, there was no dual carriageway in northern Nigeria. It was Babangida that awarded the contract to dualize Abuja to Kano. that contract, that project began in 1987, and he commissioned it or inaugurated it in the year 1991. You know, at that time, Kontagora was the Minister of Works.
Major General Mama Kontagora.
Yes, who later became
the sole administrator of ABU.
Sole administrator of ABU. Oh. And many people said, how can a non-academic be signing our certificate? But that happened at the time. And when you also, FCT, there will have been no federal capital, Abuja. The plan was there, but he was the one who signed the decree, moving the capital of Nigeria to the center of the country. And I remember Halilu Akilu saying at the meeting of the AFRC, he told them that, look, I'm going. If you are not coming with me, I'm going. And he built Abuja. The beauty of Abuja is IBB's work. Yes, Abacha also continued because the phase 2, the federal secretariat was built by IBB, but the phase 2 of the secretariat was actually Abacha's work.
Quickly, before what are those things that you remember Ibrahim Babangida?
Well, the fact of the matter is that I'm not his fan, but as a journalist, history imposes the responsibility on us to be fair and to be objective, and to realize that there are two sides to a coin. There is a dark side, there is a light side. And of course, I only like to speak about how Nigerians look at him. For instance, in his military career, there is no doubt that he had a distinguished military career from 1962. And he fought in the Civil War. He was wounded between Enugu and Umuahia. And when that happened, he did a low-key marriage and then went back to the war front. And when you are talking about, in 1970, for instance, he was promoted twice. And he was known to have attended some of the best military schools in India, the Armored Corps in the UK, and also in the United States. So if you look at his military career, I think it's something impressive. And he was known to be very good in infantry and also Armored Corps. And I think he was one of the youngest members of the Supreme Military Council from 1975 to 1979. And there is no successful coup that took place in this country that was not involved, right from the July coup of 1966, led by Murtala Mohammed and co. And also the coup that removed Gowon, and also the counter coup against Dimka, because he was actually said to have taken the armored tank to the Federal Radio Corporation to counter Dimka, who was also his friend, but he didn't allow that to overwhelm him. And also, if you are talking about his foreign relations, I think he defined Nigeria as a regional power. You know, his involvement in Sierra Leone crisis, and also in Liberia, and also the Abuja Treaty, which he instigated, you know, which led to the formation of the African Union. So I think during his time, Nigeria was actually respected in terms of military power, you know, at least in West African sub-region. So, and I think if you also look at some of the programs, like Babajide said, the Third Mainland Bridge, the Shiroro Dam, then the MAMSA, you know, then Federal Road Safety Commission, which started as Maja Maja initiated by Shoyinka, but he later adopted it. So I think there are those who see him from that light, you know, in terms of some of the striking things that he did as Minister of State. Though there are also the lowly side in terms of his human rights record. You know, during his time, the banning of newspaper houses, the banning of Nigerian Labour Congress, the extrajudicial killings of policemen under his regime, which was a recurrent thing, you know, at that time. The killing of ABU students in 1986, you know, the jailing of sentencing to life of 11 members of NEPA, who are, because they protested against England. So we have to look at it from both sides. But I think in all, to be 80 years, you know, in a difficult environment like ours, Only God can answer that question.
Let's try to establish a contact with the General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. Thank you for staying with us, sir. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, General Babangida. We rejoice with you on your birthday, sir.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we rejoice to you on the occasion of your birthday. I attended your 69th birthday, and it's a good thing to see you live up to 80 years. What is your message to Nigerians on the occasion of your birthday?
Thank you very much, Babajide. Thank you. I want to thank them most sincerely for the show of love and admiration for the little we have done.
Okay, we are talking about Nigeria. You are 80 now, and you've served Nigeria for the best of your life. And when you want to see the country today, how will you see the development, assess the development of the country right now?
I want to say that we have a lot to do, and I have absolute faith and confidence in the Nigerian people. I have confidence about their resilience. I have confidence in the industry. I pray that we will continue to maintain the tempo as a people and work towards keeping a united Nigeria.
Yes, you are credited with so many infrastructure landmarks in our country. Which one readily comes to your mind as giving you the greatest joy as our president?
Two of those projects. One is the third mainland bridge in Lagos, and the other one is Abuja, Kaduna, Kano Double Expressway.
Many people complained at that time that the Abuja, that the project to build the federal capital was extremely expensive, especially the roads. Do you have any regrets in terms of the criticism of the high cost of building those roads in Abuja at the time?
Well, I thank God that at the time we built those roads, I think I can tell you that I spent less than 500 million to construct those roads from Abuja to Kano, which by the president's standard, I think I need some 500 billion to do that.
How about talking about the roads within the seat of power itself? They complained that they were too expensive to build. That's the point that I'm making. Do you have...
Well, our thought then was simply the roads have to be the best. And today, Abuja's roads are 40 years old. And I still believe you don't have potholes in Abuja today.
Okay. It's because we are moving towards next election cycle now, and we wanted to ask you again about the unity of this country. We've already spoken your mind, but we want you to reiterate it again. What do you think people agitating here and there calling for the balkanization of the country?
Well, that will be unfortunate if there are people in this country today who will be talking about the balkanization of the country. It will be sad. About over 1 million people died in trying to keep this country together. I think we will not be fair to those of them who died, those who got wounded, those who were maimed, those whose families have lost their parents and so on. we wouldn't be fair to them if we call for the balkanization of this country, because those people who died for the purpose of keeping this country one.
Let's talk about the bullet that is still lodged in your body. We want you to throw some light on that. You had a surgery to redress the radiculopathy that you were suffering. Why have you refused to have that bullet lodged in your body during the Civil War removed?
It's 1967.
I was assured by one of the best doctors in this country, a gentleman called Professor Elebute, that it could rest, the bullet could rest peacefully on my body, and I didn't have to. I made the decision myself because I got that assurances from the professor. I didn't have to get myself cut.
General,
I was scared of being operated at that time.
oh, you are scared.
Since how many years ago?
Do you feel some pain?
1969.
1969.
69.
Do you feel some pains still going around with this bullet still lodged in your body?
No, like the professor rightly observed, I don't feel pains. So I accept that the bullet is resting comfortably.
Now, Nigeria is challenged now in terms of security across the country, from the east to the northwest to north central. And during your time as the military head of state, we never had this kind of insurgency, and we never had to face war and terrorism. What can we do to surmount these challenges?
Well, a lot of discussions have went on how to combat these are challenges that all developing countries face, I must admit. But I think all we need to do is to mobilize the entire nation, the people, for the purposes of fighting this insurgency. The people have to be mobilized. The military have to be trained and be provided with very good equipment.
Do the current generation of Nigerian leaders request for your advice to tackle some of the big problems confronting our nation? Do they routinely ask for your advice? And do you readily offer such advice?
I'm a retired general now, so I'm always available to offer any advice that I could be asked.
You are reputed to have taken the capital from Lagos and to Abuja and to build one of the best cities in the world. Don't you think compensation should have been paid to Lagos State? You know, that it is done in other parts of the world. When you move your capital from one place to the other, then you pay compensation, maybe then or even now.
There was a talk about that before we left office, and I'm very happy that it was brought up also. I remember not long ago the people from the Lagos House of Assembly came to me, and we had a very good discussions about that. I hope they will take it up from there.
Okay. Lagos House of Assembly, that's the challenge to them. They plan to make this. So we want to thank you for your time. We want to thank you. We wish you well. Happy birthday, General. I hope you keep watching Journalist Hangouts. Your final message to Nigerians.
They should continue to be very hopeful that they have a very good country, the potential of which is limited, and all we need to do is to resolve that we will make the country greater. We have a lot of examples in the world that how great countries came about. We should emulate them, and we also should provide an extremely good leadership at all levels to mobilize the people towards achieving these objectives.
Thank you so much, sir.
For years, the killings in Plateau State as a result of communal conflicts have defied solutions. The recent 24-hour curfew declared by Governor Simon Lalong in the Jos North, Jos South and Bassa local government areas after fresh crisis between the Irigwe and herdsmen erupted could achieve little. Gunmen attacked and killed some residents of Tafigana and Dome villages while the curfew was still in force. And the state government has now relaxed the curfew from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily beginning from Thursday last week. BKO, despite the curfew in place, well, partially now, there's still a lot of uncertainty, fear, and attacks haven't eased.
Yes, because we are talking about Plateau states where we've had years of sectarian disharmony, years of violent convulsions, and bloodletting. The people have still not resolved to stop killing one another. There was the story of a certain Doris. Doris was a 100-level University of Jos student who was going to church the day after the 22 persons were killed. She was going to church in a tricycle and they were being chased. She ran out of the tricycle, but because she was wearing high heels, her shoes had high heels, so she could not run, and she was attacked and killed. They even dismembered her body. This is the sort of thing that keeps happening in Plateau State. Some time ago, it was Rion that was in the news. Barkin Ladi was in the news for constant bloodletting. Now it is Jebu Miangu in Bassa local government that is in the news. The question that I keep asking myself is, when are we going to do something about all the reports of the Commission of Inquiry about just killings? We had that of the one that was headed by Justice Ajibola. There was another one headed by, I think, one Fiberisima. Another one headed by, I think, Nikitobi. So the question is, when are we going to look at their findings and bring people who deserve to be brought to justice? Because if we do not find the willpower to punish offenders, then this kind of killings will continue.
Let's get insight from the Commissioner for Information and Communication in Plateau State, Dan Manjam. What are your findings, or what's the government's findings on the recurrent violence in Plateau at this time?
The findings, government findings, have been embedded in the various commissions of inquiry. But of the recent one, investigation is still on. We cannot begin to say that we begin to blame, but what clearly stands out is that these are criminal elements that just took a swipe on the people, and they took advantage.
All right. That was Dan Manjam, the Commissioner for Information and Communication. If you're still with us.
2008.
All right, carry on,
during the local
please.
government elections. It was a local government election, but no political party's office was touched. But mosques and churches were burnt, and it becomes so worrisome. But I can tell you that for this one that happened about a week ago, it was clearly an issue of people that wanted to take advantage of the situation to loot. And you know, criminality does not have a tribe, it does not have language, it does not have ethnic nationality. It's an act that is being perpetrated by miscreants to be able to to loot people's property.
All right. In the meantime, Sam, what do you make of the Plateau State government's position?
Well, I'd like to begin by saying that Plateau has remained a hotspot. Indeed, the crisis that we currently face in that area, especially in the Bassa local government area, is one that dates back almost 20 years. Way back in 2001, the killings have been on and have persisted. And so, for any discerning soul, we want to ask, how come it's taken us, 20 years to find a solution, to this sectarian crisis, and that is what makes the whole issue really very sad. It would seem to me that government has been a bit tardy in managing it, because if you don't get to the root of the crisis, you just, be treating the symptoms as it were.
Wale Adoye, you've listened to Mr. Manjam over and over again, talking about government's efforts in ensuring that peace and order is restored. But what do you make of all his explanations?
Well, I think in terms of capacity, the state government, and it's not only Plateau State alone, is substantially weak. They can come with all sorts of recommendations and all that, but in terms of the capacity of the state to deal with these issues, I don't think most state governments don't have the capacity, because they are not in control of the institutions of law enforcement. Has there been justice for the society? Has there been justice for perpetrators of crime? Has there been justice for victims of crime? Each time when there is a crisis, we come with spontaneous reactions. High power delegation, IG will send representatives, and Senate, then we go to sleep again. What has happened to the recommendations of the former head of state? Go on. What I see now is, revenge killings. People are boiling, there's anger. And because there's no justice for those who there's no justice, people feel they can just do anything.
Armed bandits in Nigeria are getting more daring, following an attack on what can be considered as the home of the military in the country. Some gunmen attacked the residential area of the Nigerian Defense Academy, NDA, in Kaduna this Tuesday morning. Now, they killed 2 officers and abducted 1, but how long will this insecurity last? Babajide, we know we've been talking about Kaduna. Now, we used to talk about town, we used to talk about, outside town. Now they've gone into a military formation. Now, if you go to a place in Zaria, they call Depot NA. If you know Depot NA, you know Nigerian Defense Academy. If bandits are, emboldened to perpetrate their acts in places that ordinarily people will say these are restricted areas. Now, I don't know what kind of security we hope to get in the country.
Well, I will say that I'm ashamed that this has happened. I'm ashamed for my country that this has happened. Not because it's a new thing for bandits or Boko Haram to overrun a military base. That has happened many times, including even super camps. They've been overrun. But that had happened largely in the northeast, and I think on 1 or 2 occasions in Niger State, where bandits overrun a military barracks and set it a military base and set it ablaze. But for it to happen in Kaduna is particularly not just strange, but unacceptable. The one div headquarters, the cost of commuting from one div headquarters to the NDA is just 100 naira. That's to tell you that It's not far. Yet, we could not mobilize reinforcement to go and deal decisively with those bandits. Before now, bandits entered the Command and Staff College in Jaji and stole cattle.
The fear factor is not
What
there
is
at all.
going on? You go into a place where they train our middle cadre officers. Middle cadre officers are among the most no-nonsense officers that you will find in the armed forces. You go to the place where they train them and stole their cattle. You could say the NDA is not really a military formation. It's not an army base. It's just a training facility. But that is not an excuse.
Well, they are training officers.
Yes.
Future officers.
Yes, but that is now, cadets, some of them are as young as 16 years, some of them graduate at 20, 21. So they are not primed for battle. They are not ready to fight. Even the officers are never prepared for battle. They merely simulate training, what you find, they take them into the bush, and the back of NDA, the whole area is exposed. Now, for you to have allowed that to happen, it shows that we don't have security. If we do not take the battle to them, they are ready to take it to us. That is what asymmetry warfare is about. So we just expose these young people to unnecessary death in the hands of bandits.
Dotu, it's ridiculous when you see things like this and you want to know that. I was asking Jide earlier, I asked Jide earlier that, how about this fear factor? If you are talking about a mobile policeman, you know, if anything wants to happen, there's a level of respect from the normal policeman you see wearing black and black when you say mobile policeman. And there's another level of respect when it comes to, this is a military guy.
Information. Well, I think...
And for these people to have the effrontery, I don't know.
I think we lost it long ago. You know, we've spoken here on this program about taking the battle to the military. And
to the bandits.
It was clearly said that we have lost it completely. Because it has happened before, so they already know it can happen again. And that's what has simply happened. I think in all of this, the only thing I found a bit positive that has happened today is that for the first time in a long while, we are getting some level of information shortly after the thing happened. Before, even the statement that we got, we wouldn't have gotten it. And it is saddening that we are being told that as after these people got into that military community, they were still there. Saying that, and then the military is telling us they are trying to mobilize to go and look for them. I mean, it doesn't... Two things I saw there. The word breaching. They said they breached the NDA. What happened? Meaning that, like BKO said, no fence around that formation. And these are things that have always come up. You have your airports where there is supposed to be security. It is not fenced. So you have cattle coming in, you have criminals entering the airports from all those areas. Why do we leave things until when something negative happens? Because it's a big question. That's one. And two, like BKO said, when you look at the whole of Kaduna, which was the fear some in the south raised, it's like a complete military state. Virtually everything is there. And all of them are just in the same area. If it has taken us hours for us to react to this, then I'm wondering what will happen in other states where you don't have such, assemblage of military formation. What will happen?
As the security crisis in northern Nigeria worsens, suggestions are flying about on how best to tackle it. Zamfara State Governor Bello Aminu Matawale has called on the federal government to declare a state of emergency on insecurity in northern part of the country. Governor Matawale says the recent attack on the headquarters of the Nigerian Defense Academy, NDA, Kaduna, is another setback for the quest for peace in the country. Babajide, a state of emergency, as recommended in some states in the north, as recommended by Bello Mohammed Matawale. I don't know.
The kind of state of emergency that he envisages is not known to our law. It's not known to our laws. People still think that the state of emergency, the kind of state of emergency that Obasanjo came up with, can be replicated in today's Nigeria. Nobody will impose that kind of state of emergency because Obasanjo, at the height of impunity, imposed state of emergencies based on a law that no longer exists. Whereby once the state of emergency is in place, all elective positions are deemed to be suspended. The governor goes on suspension, and then the president will bring the sole administrator. It is not known to Nigerian law.
Like what happened in Ekiti?
It was challenged.
Plateau states.
It was challenged, and once it was challenged, nobody can come up with that kind of state of emergency anymore. The state of emergency that you can do at this time, the best you can get is, 90 days. Arrest without trial for 90 days. You are not bound to to take those people that you have arrested to court. That, you can do that, just 90 days. But all the elective positions, all the organs of government, the House of Assembly, the governor, everyone will keep his place. When Goodluck Jonathan imposed state of emergency in the 3 frontline states, harassed by Boko Haram insurgency, he did not send anyone on suspension. The governors kept their positions. Even when Kashim Shettima, appeared to insult the president, he still kept his position. He didn't do anything to him.
Looking at what could compel Matawale to have made this statement, this should be born out of frustration. He has seen a state that is almost ungovernable again, as in what is grappling with.
Just like his predecessor.
Yes, like he is the chief security officer of Zamfara State, but he's the one that established it and told us that he is grappling with, battling with over 30,000 bandits in Zamfara alone. Just imagine, I don't know, maybe the number of policemen in Zamfara alone is up to 30,000.
All the armed forces, they are not up to that.
Well, the interesting thing is that Section 305C and D of the Constitution says that the president can take extraordinary measures, to contain certain challenges like that. You saw what happened in respect of COVID-19, But the thing is, it doesn't outline what are these extraordinary measures. Will you remove elected officers? Will you do this? Will you do that? Now, Matawale is talking about state of emergency. We need to now put it side by side with what President Muhammad Buhari said about, the culpability of governors, putting the responsibility on governors, to secure their state. So that means in between, something is not being told to Nigerians. In between, there are certain things that are being hidden from Nigerians. The first question I want to ask is, have the armed forces, the police, the civil defense, all security agencies, have they told us emphatically that they cannot handle Nigeria's security challenges? We need to be clear with that, because the Chief of Defense Staff, the other day when he went to Nigerian Defense Academy, he said, we'll put an end to
There was Standstill in Owerri, the Imo State capital, on Thursday. Southeast leaders converged to join Governor Hope Uzodinma in receiving President Muhammadu Buhari, who was in the state for a one-day official visit. And this comes at a time when Vice President Yemi Osinbajo is blaming the political elites for the level of insecurity in the country. I'd like to begin with you, Mr. Nwankwo. So many people have read meanings into the President Buhari's visit, but looking at it from the standpoint of him promising the governor that he will give the southeastern zone more attention in the administration's infrastructural agenda, just at a time when he also met with Ohanaeze leadership. What are the gains of the president's visit from your observations?
Yeah, I happen to be a citizen of Imo State. Every governor tries to make sure that the president visits to either inaugurate, not commission, inaugurate projects. And that was precisely what the president went there to do, even though a lot of critics might not see much in the projects that were commissioned. The governor himself, in my opinion, just wanted to see the kind of political capital he could make out of the president's visit, because he is somebody that has been in the eye of the storm. One, because of the circumstances that brought him to office. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And then the issue of IPOB and how his government have been able to manage the issue. So President Buhari coming to Owerri to visit on a state visit is a kind of gain for the governor. But what any concerned Igbo man or Igbo citizen was interested in that visit was that discussion he had with Igbo leaders of thought.
All right, Mr. Nwankwo, let me put you on hold and hear from Asokwa James here. For you, what was critical about the president's visit and his meeting with the Igbo leaders?
Well, just like you said, though they didn't allow the media to really go into the whole meeting with the Southeast leaders, but from the statement put out by Professor George Obiozo, the President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, he actually spoke the minds of Ndigbo, in that there've been these years of lack of communication between the central government and the Igbos. But so many people who want the unity of the country will always tell you that whatever is happening in the Southeast, which some people want to, move out of Nigeria, they are not in cohort with them. They don't agree. But rather, if it's something, just like he said, it's something that everybody can sit down and talk about. And for George Obiozo, I think what he was trying to tell the president was, you have not given us that room, just like you have given to other regions, for us to sit down and then begin to talk about development. He was saying something about good governance, that if you are talking about good governance, you have to be fair, you have to be, there have to be equity, whereby, and justice must also be part of it. So if you are saying you are giving people of a particular region appointments, you must make sure that it also gets to another region, And from all the things he said, the major thing he said there was about the communication gap that was between the Buhari administration and the people of the Southeast. and that the only way that the president's visit will further cement that relationship. And I think the president would have gone home, you know, to think about it. Not that the president does not have ministers who come from that region, and not that the president is not listening. The president, if the president was not a listening president, I'm very sure he won't even go, even though most people are saying that his visit to the Southeast was more political, in that the governor wanted to just make a statement, you know. But to me, I think it is even good that the president went there, because there's been this fear about, oh, the president will not go because he doesn't like Igbos. No. But I think for those who are thinking that the president will not go because of what has been happening there, they've been put to shame.
President Muhammadu Buhari has put on hold the controversial payment of $408 million to consultants over the Paris Club refund. After initially approving the payments, President Buhari directed Ministry of Finance to ask the Debt Management Office, ZMO, to stay action until all cases become clearer. This was the position of Babajide and other analysts when the issue came up for discussion on this program on Friday, the 3rd of September. Let's share some of the discussion with you.
The federal government, everyone benefited from the Paris Club refund. Now, the governors are saying that what has been set aside in form of judgment debts for contractors and consultants, they do not deserve. And that there ought to be a forensic audit that looks at all of those claims so that we can then be sure whether or not they deserve to be paid at all, or to be paid as much as we are now about to pay them. So I think it makes sense, especially given the fact that the matter is in court. There should not be any form of indecent haste to pay. I know that the federal government has a lot of judgment debts on its neck. Look at OD, for example. The mindless invasion of OD and the killing of innocent people was a matter that got to court. The federal government lost, and I'm aware that judgment debt had not been paid. Even Baba Suwe was unduly accused of harboring drugs in his belly, whereas it wasn't true. By the time it took NDLA to court, NDLA could not pay. They ruined his career, they ruined his humanity, they ruined his life. There is a need for the finance minister, for the president to take their time. Let all these cases be decided. Let us see whether indeed these fellows deserve this money. The president would allow the courts to finish adjudicating on this matter, and he sees that clearly there are some facts that were not presented before him before he was convinced to take this decision. I'm convinced that the president will take the right decision in the best interest of the Nigerian people. So what we are asking for, we don't know who is right for now. What we are saying is, subject this to a forensic audit so that the people do not walk away with what they do not deserve. Once the judicial process runs its course and everyone can see that, look, this is the decision of the court, they would abide. But to not let the judicial process run its course, to simply dismiss the efforts of the House of Reps to investigate this matter, I don't think that will serve the cause of the ordinary Nigerian.
The same thing, $418 million. And if you look at the speed of the dollars now to a naira, you will understand what we really, if we have to break this money down just for consultancy. Babajide? you said it all. There's nothing to be added.
Yeah.
That if at this time that the country is gasping for breath economically, and the time that we really need all the monies we can get to pay this to some consultants, I don't know.
It's a thing of joy that we advise the president not to take this decision to pay, and the president was listening to us. Good.
What is wrong with the investigation?
Yes, yes, let them do it. The same people who contracted those guys are saying they didn't see any work that they did. We don't know whether it is true or not, but let the court, the matter is in court. They are appearing in court towards the end of September. Let the judicial process run its course before rushing to go and pay. And we've had cases in the past when we even paid twice. We paid a consultant, paid another consultant again. That's in respect of Abacha loot. We paid twice. So let this one not be like that. That was our own argument. And I'm happy that the president has said, okay, hold on, let's hold on. Let these cases be decided before we know what to do next.
There's no need to be in a hurry. Adekunle Yusuf, for this kind of money, we need to hold on, do all the due diligence that we need to do on this matter. We're not talking about the propriety now. Maybe they will pay them or they will not pay them. Just investigate first and get the facts and figures right.
Yes, that's the best that should happen, because I was very sad when I saw the approval, the president gave that they should go and pay. We said no. Listen to other people. Other stakeholders are saying, let's investigate. They are not saying we are not going to pay anybody. Believe me, I don't know how they work out the $400 and something million. How they arrived at that figure. What exactly did they do? No, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to rubbish their efforts. What exactly did they do
that is so
that make them to collect so much? Believe me, when the NGF said a forensic audit, who is afraid of investigation?
Okay.
It's the right thing to do, and I commend the president for changing his mind.
Months of controversy, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has approved the appointment of Professor Biyemi Olatunji Bello as the ninth substantive Vice Chancellor of the Lagos State University, LASU. A professor of physiology, Mrs. Olatunji Bello, had served as acting Vice Chancellor of the institution before our appointment. Babajide, nice one there.
Yes, sir.
Former Deputy Vice Chancellor, two-time Deputy Vice Chancellor under the Vice Chancellor, this professor of physiology. She has proven over and over again, and she became the acting Vice Chancellor of that particular institution. But there was this controversy before the selection process.
Well, I'm glad that this matter has been put to rest. We are a nation of one day, one controversy. So I'm not interested in the controversy. I'm focused on the future. I was at LASU about 3-4 weeks ago when the Association of National Association of Linguistics invited me to receive an award, and I can say that it still retains everything that made it the state university of choice in our country. LASU has a tremendous history. We used to have the best law faculty in our country in the 80s and the 90s. So I want to believe that Professor Biyemi Olatunji Bello will give her best and push the university to higher heights, because that is all that we want to see. She was described by a writer as a woman of impeccable originality as a scholar with significant contribution to the body of knowledge. I thought at a point that she would even get it, because there was she was part of the people who contested for the thing the very first time. So, but that whole exercise was scrapped, and they had to start again. And now the Committee of Council and the Senate of the University have chosen her as
part of the sentiment brought up in the run-up to this thing, build up to this thing, that she's from Owo in Ondo State, and even for the fact that our mother is even from Lagos State here, but her father is from Owo in Ondo State, but she's married to a Lagosian. She's married to
Ayo. It's unfortunate that our country has become what it is. The most famous vice chancellor in Uniben's history is Adamu Beki. Adamu Beki is from northern Nigeria. It's Hausa Fulani. In those days, core northerners used to be VC of schools in southern Nigeria. I believe, Baba.
Yes, yes.
You know, Kweku Adadevo, who was VC, was he a Lagosian?
Even that one was even Ghanaian.
From the name, you will see this origin.
He's not even from Nigeria.
No, it's even possible to be a Ghanaian name.
Oh, really?
It's possible to be a Ghanaian name. But we are saying that, look, in the past, what I'm just trying to say, and we've had even people from the East become VC of Unilag here. From the East. But these days, people will say,
Professor Eninjoku.
Yes, from the East. These days, people will say, no, he has to be from our own area. We've seen state universities pick people from far away to even become their VC. Once you are good enough, they will allow you to do it. Let's always push aside some of these things that divide us and reach out for the best. When we reach out for the best will do their best for us, and everyone will be happy.
Professor Olasujibelo, from the pedigree, from what you've read about her.
Well, I think for us, like he said, what made Nigeria great in the 70s and 80s was adherence to the principle of merit. In any way we find yourself. He has mentioned a lot of people who have made names, University of Ife to University of Ibadan to University of Lagos. There was a time there was a controversy as to, even Professor Shikeobi, was it not a former professor? So I think the moment, you see, in anything that we do in life, either in private life, either in your business, either in national life, the moment we push merit to the background, you cannot make it. It is not a cause. It is an order of history. And what made Nigeria, what made the University of Ibadan to be thick in those days was that University of Ibadan can admit anybody from anywhere. And in the 70s, people used to come from the Middle East because University of Ibadan is regarded as a center of excellence. Yes. Who are those who made University of Ibadan? They are not necessarily Yoruba people. Who are those who made University of Lagos? They are not necessarily Yoruba people. And secondly, I like to make a correction. When you look at her CV, she can claim to be a Lagosian by all standards. Why? She had her primary. She was born in Lagos. Yes. She had her primary school, Anglican primary school in Surulere. She had her secondary school in Lagos. Methodist she went to University of Ibadan.
Her father is even Lagosian.
She has been in the system in Lagos since 1988, which means she has spent 33 years in the service of Lagos State University. Besides that, if it had been a civil servant, maybe she would have retired now, because the new law now favors a professor reaching the age of 70. So when you look at her antecedents and the fact that she has gone through the mill in the Lagos State University, she has gone through the mill, she's 57. Yeah. And anybody that must put LASU where it belonged in the 80s and 90s, it has to be somebody who knows the history of LASU, who has grown through LASU. When Nigeria was Nigeria, when you assemble 11 footballers on the field, if 8 of them are from Edo State, by the time you emerge victorious, they won't say that people from Edo State are the winner. But the glory goes to Nigeria. So let us give her the benefit that she can perform. And because she has gone through the mill, I believe, like many other people who contested with her, she knows the problem of LASU, and she's in a position to position and to reposition LASU.
She should live up to expectation. We've had women as vice chancellor, so she has entered an exclusive club. You know, it was Grace Alele Williams that set the ball rolling as VC of Uniben. We've had Jade Sola Akonde from that same university. So She's in an exclusive club now as a woman heading a tertiary institution in our country, and I'm sure that she will rise to the occasion.
The controversy over the reports of the visitation panel set up by President Muhammadu Buhari to unravel the cause of administrative crisis at the University of Lagos, UNILAG, has been laid to rest. The Ministry of Education, in a statement signed by the Director of Press and Public Relations, Ben Gong, says there was nowhere the Vice Chancellor, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundikpe, was indicted in the reports, contrary to stories in some sections of the media. But instead, it is the former chairman of UNILAG Governing Council, Wale Babalakin, that was indicted. This confirms the position of Babajide and Adekunle Yusuf on the matter on Sunday. It was very, very hot. Let's share some moments with you.
We live in a season of sleaze, a season of fake news, and all kinds of reports are flying all over the place. I'm not aware of the visitation panel that the president set up indicting the VC. There is nowhere in the report of that visitation panel that came out in September last year indicting the VC. Nowhere. And I've read it from beginning to the end. In fact, on various issues, including over budgetary spending, including contract overpayments, the panel affirmed that there was no overpayment, that it did not detect any overpayment. It then says the area termed overpayment relates to facility maintenance, which can't be predetermined. Then it also said that section 3.7 on the issue of contract splitting by the VC. The visitation panel found that contract for maintenance and janitorial services are not composite and therefore were rightly separated. So the VC was not indicted on the issue of contract splitting. Babalakin has been harping on contract splitting, corruption. But the truth is, the report, not a piece of document not signed, that is flying all over the place.
It's a sad day for the Nigerian media. The entire Nigerian media was raped.
Misled.
That's why I used the word raped. People were just insinuating. But a day or two after, he was live on TV granting interviews based on a fake report, fake news.
It was reported to Nigeria and nobody has come out to debunk it.
I am debunking it now.
Do you know, nobody even asked from the university they are reporting.
Did it emanate from the ministry?
Nobody said.
Did anybody interview anybody in the ministry?
Nobody said the report came from the ministry. Nobody said they got the report.
It's not signed. No, it's not signed.
According to professional ethics, you will say you have a committee which you cited. Nobody did.
No signed. The visitation panel affirmed that council, the governing council of UNILAG, has limited knowledge and understanding of the law regulating the institution within which they are expected to operate and give policy directions. So is this how to indict someone? Do these words look like somebody who had been indicted?
No.
I'm repeating it on air now. There's nowhere that the visitation panel indicted the VC. I say it with my full chest. There's nowhere the visitation panel indicted the VC. In fact, it affirmed that he was not given fair hearing and that the process of removing him was wrong. We are telling Nigerians now that whole thing is complete falsehood that cannot stand the test of scrutiny.
Okay. Babajide, there are developments, but my own question here is that I was so disappointed that as big and independent as Nigerian media seem to be, that an individual can infiltrate the media. You can see the number of newspapers, I don't want to name, that the Ministry of Education, the press release, actually quoted. You know, before you were saying that not all the media, but when you saw the number of media houses that was quoted, you say, where are the rest?
Every media gatekeeper who had a hand in the heresy that happened should be ashamed of himself. Because they put all of us to shame. They should be ashamed of themselves. Because the first, then what is the evidence of your training? What is the evidence of your training if an individual who is not a journalist, who had no journalism training, will bring a piece of trash to you and make it come across as a report, as an indictment, unsigned. And then you go ahead, senior people, not reporters, so it didn't emanate from education correspondence. Senior people, you now compel your staff. In some cases, you put people's names.
Byline.
Yes, people, they didn't write it though. You should be ashamed of yourself. I always talk about
due diligence.
I always talk about a philosopher who said education encourages disputation. What is the quality of the education of someone who cannot ask pertinent questions? Questions begging to be asked. You can't ask. Your confidence failed you. That means your education has yielded to your dirty mind. Because your education should elevate you to the point when you do that which really makes sense. But this is Nigeria. And frankly, when I was debunking this thing yesterday, I didn't even know that the ministry had issued a statement, because sometimes when we come into this and we are busy, we don't even know what's going on.
Breaking news. Yes. These are breaking outside.
And then today, you can see the PAMSEC saying, look, there's a white paper. That white paper dissolved the governing council. That one stands. That white paper didn't indict the VC. Now, there is the visitation panel, the general visitation panel, which came in response to ASU's demand that universities should have visitation panels. That is the one headed by General Martin Luther Agwai,
former chief of army staff.
Yes, so it is not, that was not meant for UNILAG alone. It's for all the federal universities. Now,
which is a regular thing and a normal thing should be done.
There is going to be a committee that will look at Martin Luther's report and then do along with other reports, and then do a white paper. We have not reached that point. And someone is busy deceiving gullible journalists. I mean, it's shameful.
GKB, if you know this, we said it yesterday, and I was shocked when I thought GD was going to stake his name yesterday, because I knew that this thing went on the press. It went on all newspaper review. Everywhere it was agog that, oh, perhaps the University of Lagos Vice Chancellor have been indicted. So what's the Ula Balu about? That Wale Babalaki has even been vindicated.
Well, it's called perception control. It's not peculiar to journalism, though we are the greatest victims when it happens. It's done by politicians all the time. Basically, you call somebody a rapist, and he's indicted as a rapist. The next day, the guy will go around as a lover of children, trying to deflect the original reality that he's been indicted for. It's not, I think there's a place that Jide quoted that we are not really paying attention to, that the governing board went beyond its brief. It moves from policy formulation to policy implementation. That means the governing council was interfering in the day-to-day policy implementation of the administration of the University of Lagos. That shows the level of, I don't want to call it literacy, level of impotence, that people who are brought on board university system basically to offer guidance in policy decided to be day-to-day runners. The man literally wanted to turn UNILAG into a fiefdom, where he will become the sole administrator. And this report reflected that when it came out last year. So when they said newspapers are not carrying this, I said, This is somebody trying very hard to gaslight the journalism profession. And it's not, you cannot do it without help from inside. Nobody can stand and nobody can make you crazy without your
colleagues. They are culpable.
So somebody somewhere will have told him that do not worry. We know how to do
Let's
this.
reach out. Let's reach out.
And this is what we are getting.
With intensity and renewed vigor, the Nigerian military is mounting pressure on bandits in the northwest, and the table appears to be turning against the criminals amidst bombardment by armed forces, as well as biting hunger and difficulty in accessing or assessing petrol due to government's new security measures. Bandits and their agents now devise means of getting fuel supply. They're also not getting away with this, as security personnel are foiling these moves. Let's share some videos of some women and criminals caught smuggling fuel in traveling bags to the bandits.
To ke kin fito da naki? Ke fito da naki mu gani.
Wannan jikai fatta yage.
Ai rubi biyu ne. Oh, man fetur din ne haka? Fetur ne kai. To mayar mu gani. Ƙoshe mu ga yanda kuke yi. Mai la. Wai.
So there you have it. That's just a glimpse, excuse me, of what's happening. And this state is reported to be in Katsina State. BKO, how does this appear to you? These women are said to be, one is 16 years, another is 45, and the third is 50 years old, as well as the riders who seem to be aiding, or who are said to be aiding the bandits. How does this appear to you?
You see, without fuel supply, it's difficult for them to move around. They move around on bikes. Sometimes up to 300 of them could attack a community with one bike carrying as many as 3 bandits armed with AK-47 or AK-49, as the case may be. Without fuel supply, it's difficult for them to move around. They move around within the forest. They connect states. They connect up to 3 states at once on their bikes. What I'm saying is that, like the Rugu forest, for example, you could move from Katsina to Zamfara within the Rugu forest. Some of those forests in northern Nigeria stretch as far as Central African Republic. Although movement within the forest usually reduces the journey. Let me give you an example. The children who were kidnapped in Tegina in Niger State, they were taken to Kebbi State. Of course, they are not going to use the conventional routes that you and I are familiar with. It's still within those forests that they'll be moving around, There are some communities, some Niger State communities that share boundary with Kebbi State, and Rijau local government in Kebbi State, Yauri, Brini, Yauri, where those children were, where those FGC students were kidnapped, is along the border with Niger State. So they are able to move around on those bikes, but you need to fuel the bikes. Even if you are carrying out an operation, you need fuel. So government then said, okay, from now on, fuel will no longer be sold in jerry cans. So it's been tough for them to get a supply of fuel. Some people also supply them loaves of bread. Some arrests were made in Katsina, and the government says, see, if you keep supplying these undesirable elements, bread, then we will have to close down your bakery. So they are tightening the noose. They are tightening the screw on these guys, making it difficult for them to operate freely as they used to do. Some of the roads, the usually deserted roads that they prefer to use, those roads have now been closed, and security forces have been told that anyone who uses those roads should now be treated as a bandit. So it's tough, even if you want to take supply to them, given that those roads are now officially designated as closed. You are putting yourself in real danger of being fired at.
Right. Yomi, what is it for you now? You know, looking at these videos and hearing the tales of supposed sympathizers. These are people who have, felt the brunt of the bandits' moves, their heinous crimes. But then we get to see people who are even, on their side.
Yeah.
Well, literally.
Look, the truth is that even when you look at what happened with Boko Haram in the northeast, usually they operate with people who live within the communities. Yes, we agree that a lot of these people came from neighboring countries like Chad. Some of them came from Niger, as far as Mali. There are some who are still from those communities, and a lot of these people are related to some of the bandits. Some of them actually even also have a way of benefiting from whatever ransom the bandits get. But from what you can see, for the first time, the tide is beginning to turn in favor of Nigerians and
Absolutely.
the Nigerian government, and now with a combination of the security forces, air raids, tightening of the noose, and
the telecommunications
of course, the shutdown
impact
of telecoms
absolutely.
and all of that. So all of that impact is really, really beginning to put a strain on the bandits, and we're beginning to see that victory can actually be in sight for the first time in a long.
Amid the political tussle for the 2023 presidency between the northern and southern regions of Nigeria, human rights lawyer Ebun Olu Adegborua SAN is serving as a prominent voice urging politicians to respect zoning arrangements. Olu Adegborua has urged the All Progressive Congress APC and the People's Democratic Party PDP to obey their constitutions on zoning and rotational arrangements. He insists that zoning is constitutional. Meanwhile, the PDP has zoned its national chairmanship position to the north, but silent on zoning the presidency. Babajide, it's like the game is eating up, and very, very sensitive discussion right now. It's zoning. And I remember in 2011 within the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar contested against former President Jonathan Goodluck. I remember that primaries and the issue Atiku raised throughout. And if you remember, the northern governors, they had to go for consensus, and they were talking about zoning, that it's not okay for President Jonathan at that time to, So right now, where we are in Nigeria right now, the Southern Governors Forum, they met in Lagos, and they've met twice now to say, look, the Southern governors, they desire that this power should go to the South. But they are not in sync with their Northern counterparts. The Northern governors is saying that power is not served a la carte, that you must work for it. And as a matter of fact, we should be talking about merit, not zoning.
As we have repeatedly said here, and as some of those governors have insisted, northern governors are not against zoning. Northern governors are not against zoning, presidency going to the south. What they kicked against was the language employed by the southern governors when they said must. And I have also said that I disagree with the use of the word must. Politics is an interest-driven game, and you must hammer out some form of unanimity or consensus with other contending groups.
Reach out.
You cannot simply say, oh, you must let power shift to... That's not how it's done. You've got to reach out. The people that you are reaching out to also need to look at the candidate that you are offering. Those are the things that will then decide. You can't use the word must. Where there is a need for diplomacy, where there's a need for consensus, the word must cannot be used. Our politicians must weigh their words carefully before using them, because you could, in fact, lose some of the sympathy that you used to have by not picking your words carefully. This is what led to this one. And if El-Rufai can say, look, this is what anger does, then people should understand that that's what happened, not that they are opposed to power shift.
Asuko, now leaving the governors now, going to the everyday person you meet up north, there's so much now talk about, we are tired about north and south, that we need merit. And in talking about that merit, they will tell you that if it's somebody that is from Katsina, that can, again, after 8 years, take us out of the woods, that we don't mind. There's this talk now that it's brewing. But for a country as sensitive as Nigeria, how do we strike a balance?
Well, I am, for those who are saying that it is on merit, you also, the thing is, we need to know who is playing the drum so that we'll be able to situate why they want it on merit at this point. Because if we want, in quotes, the presidency to go either to the north or to the south, we also need to know who is there now, because there's always this issue about, let's calculate how many have the north done and how many have the south done, And now what we need and what Nigerians really need is someone that will unite. Because if you go to the north, they are still not even as better off when they have a northern president. And even when we had a southern president, it's not that all the roads in the south was made of gold or was tarred with gold.
Or looking like Dubai.
Like Dubai, And even when in 2015, when we are saying that, okay, things, is going to be better then, so that we'll start afresh from the 16 years of PDP rule, things are still not been better, So now those who are saying on merit, is it going to be on merit based on equity, or is it going to be merit based on justice? Because if you look at how since 1999 till date, if you begin to count, okay, south, how many? North, how many? They will still have to even still go back to even the military era, telling you in the north, they once had a head of state that came from either the northwest or the northeast or whatever. So there will always be one region who is exempted, that was exempted in the whole arrangement. So, Ayo, for those who are saying on merit, if we want to do on merit, will they also say on merit and then they will give it to the youths on merit?
Because the youth are even better
yes.
than these old people.
Yes.
They have capacity.
Yes.
They have everything.
So if you are saying on merit, are we going to say...
who is determining merit?
Who are they going to say merit? Then they now say, let it now be on merit.
Senator representing Borno South, that's Ali Ndume, is lamenting over rising recurrent expenditure in the annual budget of the federal government. He threatened to leave the country if relevant authorities refuse to put necessary measures in place to arrest the ticking time bomb. Babajide, this is new. Ali Ndume is worried by the amount we spend on overhead and to carry out other responsibility, that's the recurrent expenditure.
Yes, he's particularly worried that in spite of the fact that there is a freeze on fresh employment into the Federal Civil Service, that expenditure keeps rising. What we get paid as salaries to federal workers keeps rising, and people are not being employed. So what is going on? That's the question. It looked at the figures over a period of 5 years, and clearly it keeps rising.
And it should not be rising because we are not employing
It
more
shouldn't
people.
even be rising at that proportion. The figures are staggering. So what's going on? And then when the man who heads the Wages Commission was asked to talk about the wage bill, he did not know the wage bill. He could not give the lawmakers the wage bill, the figure, the wage bill for the federal civil service. So and Ndume and co were very disappointed that what's going on. You should be able to tell us that currently this is the wage bill.
We are paying 1 billion per month.
So that
2 billion.
the lawmakers will be guided in the decisions that they are going to take in the final analysis. You can't go before those guys and not be harmed with the facts. Your aides must be around you. So that when you need help,
like
they are providing. In fact, before people go for those things, if not because we simply take everything lightly in our country, we are unserious people. Before you go for such a thing, there ought to be a simulation, some form of simulation of the meeting that you are going to have. The questions they are likely to throw at you, your aides should be able to simulate those questions so that you are ready.
Off guard.
You are ready. Whatever the lawmakers throw at you, you are ready. You should be able to explain what's going on. How come a recurrent is rising? How come our salary bill is rising? Whereas they have not lifted the embargo on employment. So what's going on? Are people simply giving themselves, allocating to themselves more by way of wages and all that? So these are questions that need to be asked. It's not, the solution is not for Ndume to run away. If people like Ndume, who are senators, who by far have deeper pockets than you and I, if they feel like running away, what will the rest of us do? Where will we go?
We'll go to Ghana.
He said he's going to Ghana. The rest of us may well go to Niger Republic.
And there will be crisis in all those countries.
Or Chad.
Small countries.
There's no place like home. Naza Kakoma. Where are you going?
When you look at it, the overhead and what they spend, the perks of office, the allowances and everything, contributing to very expensive democracy we are running.
Yes, it's been established that ours is one of the most expensive democracies worldwide.
Yeah.
And but first, on this issue of wages and other things that constitute what wants to make Ndume run out. We over the years, I've seen semblances of this at the state and local government levels. If you have followed trends in the media, you would have seen states where governors have ordered that the records should be looked into, especially at the local government level. And then, here on this program, I once said it, in a particular local government, I think that was in Benue State, over 10,000 people were discovered to be on the payroll of a local government. That didn't exist.
Ghost worker syndrome is another.
So if that
big problem that
exists
we've not been able to solve
at that level of government, then why are we not looking at what is happening at the federal level? Because like BKO said, you have said, see, we're only going to do controlled employment. And we know where we need those employment. It is mainly in the area of security, where we need more policemen and more soldiers. So if you are now bringing in your bills and the thing keeps rising, because what we should be looking at perhaps will be, if you are saying retirement benefits happen to be on the rise, you say, okay, it's because we are not employing and people are getting retired. So it should mean that what we should be looking at is salary should be going down, retirement benefits should go up, but it won't be at the same state. Because retirement is less. What you are paying as pension, as gratuity, is less than what you pay the worker. So what is happening?
Let's even put figures to this man's desire to run away.
He can't.
He said in 2018 it was 3.5 trillion.
Yes.
Sorry?
3.5 trillion
overhead for civil service.
Yes. Then 4 trillion for 2019. In 2020, 4.5 trillion. In 2021, 5.6 trillion.
Yeah.
Then in the projected 2022, is projected that it will be 6.8.
Almost 7 trillion.
Yes. Roughly, this is roughly 7 trillion for in the 2022 budget.
And that's about our budget.
That's what is projected.
Thank you for staying with us. In every competition, there must be a winner. After much anxiety and hiccups, the Anambra State governorship election has been concluded, and the candidate of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, APGA, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, has emerged victorious. In his speech, after INEC declared him winner, Professor Soludo paid tribute to the 3 policemen killed when he was attacked in April 2021. And dedicated his victory to them. Meanwhile, let's share the verdict of Babajide and others on the election in one of our discussions. Some weeks to the election now, the coast is clear.
Yes, it's been laid to rest, and Professor Soludo is the candidate of APGA. APGA is the dominant party in the state. APGA has always dominated the local elections in the state. But
Soludo is a candidate
the
to
National
beat.
Assembly elections are usually dominated by the PDP. With APGA, Ojuku's party has always they still enjoy that sympathy.
Yes,
you know, no matter who is the
Anambra
candidate.
State.
People are ready to vote in this election, but they need that protection. Because if they don't get this protection, they will sit inside their houses as it is being done on Mondays.
Whether we like or we don't, the elections will hold. Because when once INEC says, okay, they deploy and they have people who are on ground to do the election, whether it's only one person that came out to vote. The thing people need is just the confidence. If they have confidence that their lives will be secured, they will come out and vote.
The dramatic defection of the deputy governor of Anambra State to APC.
Yeah.
I don't know how that will affect this the stock of APGA, and it to be a kind of advantage to the APC, because I saw the pictures yesterday and I said, oh, some days to the election.
Ayo, if defections win elections, APC will not have lost the governorship election in Edo State. I've never seen where people defected like that.
All the governor's special advice.
His aides, they all left. At a point, I would say, this man has been turned to an orphan. You know?
He was the only one left.
At the end of the day, it amounted to nothing. It's not been seen in Anambra for more than 3 months. So he just came back and went straight to Aso Rock to defect.
And we went to go and meet the top
defection. When you will win an election when the grassroots to begin to defect. You know? The ruling class, they can defect, but many times it doesn't affect the election, as we saw even with Edo State. You can see APGA people even saying that his defection does not matter.
Despite the defections, because so many people defected to the All Progressive Congress.
Yeah.
And All Progressive Congress, they had 40-something thousand votes. And
thereabout.
Yeah. Distant third.
Yes. The fact of the matter is that Soludo was a popular choice. And we have seen a trend in the last couple of years where APGA, had dominated the political space in Anambra State. The political space in Anambra State. So it didn't really come as a surprise that Soludo turned out the winner. In fact, the stats are there for anyone to see. 112,000. If you add what APC polled and what PDP polled, it came to about a little over 90,000, and that is still below what Soludo polled at the election. So he was a popular choice. The elections were, largely peaceful, transparent, credible, by the ratings of most, political watchers. So, congratulations to him. His job is cut out. We hope that he seizes the moment, rolls up his sleeve, and go to work. The general feeling is that he's got the experience, he's got the competence, the capacity to deliver. Whether in terms of practical governance he's going to be able to deliver that is a different ball game. The campaign is over. It's time to work. It didn't come as a surprise at all.
Some people want to ascribe this victory to the governor, that's Governor Obiano, saying that in spite of Soludo's qualification, in spite of his achievements for Governor Obiano to say, this is the person I want to succeed me, that in most places, you won't want somebody that's towards more than you in terms of standing and all qualification to succeed you. You want somebody that is beneath you so that you can manipulate that and control that person.
Well, I wouldn't know what the governor thought about before picking Soludo. So I don't also want to think that it is the governor's decision alone. Yeah. I think the party will be much more involved in this, even though we know that governors are usually very powerful.
If you want the run-up to the primary election, those people that even had to leave the party because they felt Soludo was the favorite candidate from the onset.
But that was a smart decision, really, by the governor. It's a smart decision because right from the beginning, when we saw the candidates vying for these positions, we said it here time and again that Soludo appeared to be probably the best man for the job. And we also saw all his travails, which we also alluded to, that it's like everybody, even his opponents, they are aware that he probably has the capacity and he probably towers above them, and hence all the problems he was facing. So really for Soludo, so much is expected of him because people think that he should be able to do well. The governor made the right choice, and also the people around, we think he should be able to do well. We can see some of his qualifications, how many degrees? About 3
talk about that
degrees, This is somebody who is a first-class graduate and all of that. Now, he should prove to us, you see, that it's not just about being a first-class graduate, even though I give it to Soludo, that he has proved his mettle in the past. As CBN governor, is the one that even started the
bank consolidation,
the recapitalization of banks, and we see where we are today.
Effected it.
Yes, he effected it, and we see where we are today with that policy. So really, I expect him to do very well. He's even also a member of the President Buhari's economic team, and which also shows that the confidence that is reposed in him as a person. And I strongly believe that is not going to disappoint not just the people of Anambra State, but Nigerians in general.
The ones told us that they are one, not two, and for a long time the musical duo of P-Square, made up of twin brothers Peter and Paul Okoye, mesmerized the audience with breathtaking songs and performances until a family feud put the group asunder. But now they are back together. For the first time in about 5 years, the singing duo mounted a stage together as they dished out hit songs from their collections for their 40th birthday party. Let's share some of the viral videos suggesting that Peter and Paul are reunited after years of beef that made their brand P-Square split. And that's how we begin our discussions today on Journalist Hangout. Let me bring in, once again, BKO. Welcome to the program. It's good to see you keeping safe. Well, in the words of Mike Okri, who said the world is indeed better at looking at this reunion of P Square, what is it like for you?
It gives me tremendous joy because these are young Nigerians that had known closely for years. I'm probably one of the first 3 newspaper editors to put them on a newspaper page just after Channel O made them popular across the African continent. And even after they relocated to Lagos, in August 2005, I got my entertainment reporter at that time to stay close to them. And that entertainment reporter eventually became their publicist. They've been very close since then. The brothers call me Uncle Jide. So when this group broke up, I was really, really distraught. And big Nigerians made efforts to stop the breakup from happening. Atiku Abubakar, Aliko Dangote, Aminu Dantata. Remember, when Paul had his birthday, Aminu Dantata actually gave him a gift of 10 million at that time. So they were very popular with a lot of the big people in our country. You won't know that a lot of those big people were actually lovers of P Square until this problem began, and they jumped in, tried their best to resolve it, but they couldn't resolve the dispute. Many people say, well, it was because they lost their mother, because their mother had a very firm grip on them. But it's a good thing that the boys are back, and Jude Engis Okoye, their manager and elder brother, is also back as their manager. So we look forward to a tremendous reunion concert by P Square, and you can bet that the hall or wherever they are going to have that reunion concert is going to be sold out because Nigerians love this group. I'm quite happy, and I hope that all of the things that put them asunder would now be water under the bridge.
All right, BKO, let's hear from the studio. Adekule, what are your expectations at this P Square reunion?
I want them to reenact the same, mindset that made them, what the world is celebrating. They're one of the best that came out of Nigeria in this generation. And when you look at their music, look at the dance, look at the lyrics, so many people just love them. And they really broke millions of hearts just by parting ways. Many people were so unhappy, but it was a situation people couldn't help. But now, since they parted ways, each of them has come up with, I think, solo efforts here and there. Commercially, it has not been of the same success as when they were together. And you look at the way people with the video, you saw the happiness and the joy. People would love to see them back. And as somebody commented, it was like an intractable situation that can these people be brought back again? Anyone who is behind this, who is able to resolve these problems and bring them together, as somebody said, can lead Nigeria successfully.
All right. Let me allow Dr. to have the final say on this before we move on to other topics.
Well, I think it's the lesson that we should learn from this, big one at that. We've seen a couple of such breakups in Nigerian music. And like I said, it has not yielded good fruits thereafter. The plantation boys are there. It's a big lesson. We should learn to manage success. Success shouldn't get into our heads, especially when we have the backing of people and there are people who are talking to us behind the scene. It's a big lesson.
Grey hair, they say, is a reflection of wisdom. As such, when an elder speaks, there is a need to take heed. 92-year-old elder statesman Bazulike Amechi has urged Igbo youth to respect his age and stop wanton killings and destruction of property in the southeast. The elder statesman, who was the first Republic Minister of Aviation, made the appeal after a closed-door meeting with Governor David Umahi of Ebonyi State in Abakaliki. PKO, Yoruba proverb would say that an infant's head cannot be haphazardly placed where we have elders. What do you make of this appeal?
It's a timely one, and I can only urge the young men in the southeast, whether they are unknown gunmen or unknown murderers, to listen to this old man. People like Bazulike do not have many years more to stay with us. It's been a privilege to even live beyond the age of 90 in Nigeria, where we know that life expectancy has gone down. Now, for this old man to be witnessing what he's witnessing today, it has been a matter of concern for him. And when he led the group of Igbo greats, as they were described, to the president 2 weeks ago, he told the president that he had some measure of influence over IPOB, because on a few occasions, that's the man, on a few occasions he had intervened when Nnamdi Kanu tried to organize some form of civil disobedience. He stepped in and Nnamdi Kanu changed his mind. And we can also recall that, because he didn't mention specifics, but we could recall that many of us were apprehensive about the governorship election in Anambra State, because, again, IPOB instituted or came up with the idea of civil disobedience to coincide with the period of the election. We were all apprehensive. How would this thing go? Would there be an election? Somebody even went, a cleric even went as far as predicting that there will be no election. But at the last minute, almost at the last minute, IPOB was prevailed upon to withdraw that order. And it did what looked like the unthinkable. When in withdrawing that order, it appealed to Anambrarians to go out en masse and vote. That was very much unlike IPOB, because IPOB has always said no election unless there is a referendum in the southeast. So to come out and even urge people to go and vote was something that people did not expect. And it reinforces the hope that a lot of people have that dialogue can still prevail at the end of it all. So for this old man at his age to be fighting to achieve peace, to be fighting to restore the East to its old glory of peace and prosperity, I would expect young people who are losing their heads, killing people for fun, to listen to this old man and do what the old man has appealed to them to do. They've got to listen to him and give peace a chance.
Right. Let me take this to Tunde Abaton. Well, just like he said, there are different groups that have sprung up. Talk about IPOB, ESN, and it's just like this is a country where different insecurity, is really ravaging the entire country. Do you see these youths so amazing, so enthusiastic? They really want to, take things into their hand. Do you see them listening to this leader?
Well, I think when you really look at the attitude of the youth, especially their decision to suspend the boycott of the elections, it means that they have a particular goal, and that goal was based on the fact that they wanted fairness and justice in the society. Actually, they didn't want election, but now they know that you can only get peace by pursuing a path of peace. When you use violence to the extreme, you may not have the peace that you wanted. I want to believe that what the elder statesmen have done is a recognition of the standing rules the youth can play in bringing about peace to that place. Number two, it's also a recognition of the fact that perhaps somewhere down the line, those people in government in Nigeria, because I believe the agitation started, yes, there have been too much violence in the southeast, and destruction of public property, and the very people that the youth are clamoring to protect. But the fact remains that government should see this one as a window to also draw the youth closer, like the governor of Lagos was trying to do, draw them closer. After all, they are not saying something that people have not been saying in Nigeria today. But they are taking to violence is an instance of apparent frustration with the system. Frustration that was held by the fact that most of them have no job. Most of them cannot go to school. Most of them are deprived in any way you can describe deprivation in Nigeria. So I think that with the attitude of the elder statesman, the youth should know that they have been recognized and their clarion call has been attended to. But let the government also extend a hand of fellowship and let us go back to the drawing table and address those issues.